Canadians, Americans, members of the Commonwealth, and patriots the world over. Welcome to the show that tells you what they won't. Exposing the fake news, conspiracies, and corruption within institutions that govern our lives. And red-pilling the nations one fact at a time. It's Weathering the Storm with your host, Canada's Red Pill, Billy Joyce. Good day, folks, and welcome to another show. Before I get started, I would simply like to thank the following people that have contributed to my work lately. I would like to thank Gordon N. for his very, very kind contribution. Greatly appreciated, Gordon. Ernest R., Eric M., Lydia B., and James D., who donated twice recently. So a great big thank you to James, Lydia, Eric, Ernest, and Gordon. It is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated, and I thank you for your support. In today's show, I'm going to try to keep it brief. I've been getting a lot of people commenting, asking me to do shorter videos, but to do more videos. I haven't done a video in over a week and a half. I'm super busy at the radio station. We've got a whole bunch of reports that are due before the end of the month, so I've been pretty busy with that. And my health has been causing me some problems over the last week and a half or so, a couple days, where I slept most of the day, and everything seems to be getting better now. So here I am. It looks like the Canadian government, for whatever reason, is looking to piss off President Trump and the United States of America. You would think that Canada would recognize that our greatest ally and our greatest partner on the face of this planet is the United States of America. But recently, Canada has taken measures, or they've made decisions that seem to go against the best interest of our relationship with the United States of America. And frankly, it is bugging me. I'll use those words. It's bugging me. It's bugging me. The first thing I'd like to share with you is a move recently where we sided with North Korea in a UN resolution condemning Israel. The resolution calling for the self-determination of Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza Strip condemns Israel as occupiers of a Palestinian state. Now, in the past, I'm going to read to you from this article. Breaking a 14-year precedent, the Trudeau government has voted in favor of a resolution at the United Nations condemning Israel. The resolution calling for the self-determination of Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza Strip condemns Israel as occupiers of a Palestinian state. The resolution stressed the urgency of achieving without delay an end to the Israeli occupation that began in 1967 and asked the United Nations to continue support and assist the Palestinian people in the early realization of their right to self-determination. Similarly worded resolutions come before the United Nations annually, but this is the first time in years that Canada has supported one in over a decade. The resolution, sponsored by North Korea and Zimbabwe, you know, those great the champions of democracy, North Korea and Zimbabwe, also cites an International Court of Justice ruling from 2004 which says Israel's border wall severely impedes the right of Palestinian people to self-determination. Canada's decision to support the resolution was immediately condemned by experts as a cynical move which completely ignores the acts of terrorism committed against Israel by extremists in the West Bank and Gaza. The Honourable Peter Kent, Conservative MP, says Canada abandons Israel at United Nations to slight U.S., supporting North Korean PLO motion and annual anti-Israel bashing by tyrants and dictators. There was a record here. I'm trying to see. There it is here. Here's the record here. You'll see that resolutions were voted against in 2014, 2015, 2016. Trudeau himself voted against it in 16, 17, and 18, but this year, all of a sudden, 2019, and we're voting in favor of this resolution against Israel. Now, I know there's all kinds of people out there that, you know, Israel took that land from the Palestinians in 1967, but it seems that no one wants to go back to the history in biblical times where Israel belonged to the Jews. Now, there are arguments out there that the people occupying Israel today aren't the real Jews. There's all these arguments out there, but there are real Jews living in Israel, whether we like it or not. And Israel was given to the Jews by God. So whatever the United Nations decide, that's irrelevant in the big picture of God. But no one wants to go there. No one wants to talk about that. And we're not going to go into details here because, like I said, there's arguments for both sides. And I'm not saying that Benjamin Netanyahu and the governments of Israel since 1967 have treated the Palestinian people fairly. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that land that there's a dispute over, the history of it goes back more than just to 1967. Who took it from the Jews? You know, so if we want to go back, historically speaking, there's an argument to be made in favor of Israel. Now, if that wasn't enough, we know that the reason they're doing this is to get a seat at the UN Security Council. And I would suggest that you go read this article by the Post-Millennial entitled, "Canada's UN Security Council seat is not worth the cost." And here, again, the Post-Millennial, Becca Wertman, the author of the article, is slamming the Canadian government for having sided with North Korea, Egypt, Nicaragua, Zimbabwe, and the Palestinians. And I recommend that you go read this because it talks about the negative repercussions of taking this position, which includes, whether we like it or not, going against our greatest ally, which is the United States of America. On top of that, recently there was the Halifax International Security Forum. Now, I've done videos on this in the past, and this Halifax International Security Forum, it's called the Halifax International Security Forum, but no one from the Trump administration that I know of was invited. They have this special ceremony for John McCain. John McCain's wife was there, and our defense minister was there as well, and he says that China is not an adversary. How go read that article as well. I'll leave it in the description of the video. Now you get the defense minister, Arjit Sajjan, however you want to pronounce it, in Halifax, saying that China is not an adversary, but yet we have the two Canadians that have been held in Chinese custody for months and months and months now. We've got the Chinese company Huawei using their technology to run spy operations in North America. The Chinese have a system of governance that's called communism. And we know that China's been manipulating currencies and manipulating industries for a very long time. For example, selling cheap steel, cheaper or more expensive than what it's worth. You look at the amount of coal being exported from China, and you got China that's developing like mad to the detriment of Western nations. Their human rights record is terrible. They've got 1 million Muslims enslaved. Now again, I'll be the first to admit that political Islam is a danger, but not everyone who calls themselves a Muslim is a danger. But in China, whether they're a danger or not, there's 1 million Muslims locked up. And Canada's defense minister is out there saying China is not an adversary. Again, a big flip in it to President Trump, who's sick and tired of saying that China is a threat, and I guess you could consider them an adversary. So you've got Canada flipping a finger to Donald Trump and the United States of America. And what did we expect? What did we expect? Did we expect the United States to just sit by and do nothing? Well, 5 days after Trudeau decided it was best to vote against Israel and in favor of the Palestinians, and about a week after our defense minister came out saying that China wasn't an adversary, Well, we have the United States sending a blunt letter to Canada criticizing our defense spending. And in this article, I invite you to go read it as well. You can go read how Canada is sixth amongst the NATO countries when it comes to the amount of money they spend, but they're pretty much dead last when it comes to the percentage of GDP that we spend. 1.27% of our GDP is all that we spend. And of course, President Trump is wanting each country member of NATO to spend 2% of their GDP on military spending. And if you go read this article, you'll see in there that the reason the U.S. is concerned is because of China and Russia's increasing presence in the Arctic, or otherwise known as the North Pole. And what the U.S. is saying is that they don't feel that the Canadian military is spending enough money, and that if China or Russia wanted to overtake or seize control of the Arctic, that Canada would be in a bad position to defend it. And of course, who would Canada call? Who do you think Justin Trudeau has on speed dial for a situation where China or Russia tries to invade us from the north? Take a wild guess. He'd be on the phone going, President Trump, President Trump, can you help us? Vladimir Putin's coming. I know we said we like China more than we like you, but listen, we're going to get destroyed, so is there any way you could help us? And chances are, President Trump, being the fine man that he is, would help us. But when are we going to stop the nonsense? When is our government, and when are our government officials, and when are our MPs, and when is everyone going to stand up and say, enough is enough? Stop siding with dictators. Stop showing your undying love for communist freaking countries, and start respecting our neighbors to the south who have stood by our side. Listen, it's time we forget about the War of 1812. It's done. It's over. I don't remember it. I wasn't here. All I remember is that for the 43 and a half years of my existence, when we talk of Canada, we talk of the United States of America. Canadians watch American television shows. Whether we like it or not, Canada has been influenced and has more in common with the United States than any other country on the face of the planet. Not Great Britain, not Prince Andrew the pedophile, or the accused pedophile, because you can't call him a pedophile, it's not proven yet. Yet. So why doesn't Canada, instead of pandering to the royal family and dictatorships around the world, why don't we get our SHIT in order and start treating our neighbors to the south and their duly elected president with a little bit of respect and a little bit of common sense? Because let's face it, like I said, Vladimir Putin, the Russians, and the Chinese come over the North Pole to attack Canada. The first phone call that Trudeau, or even Soy Boy Scheer, if he was in power, or anybody else for that matter, the first phone call that would be made would be, President Trump, we're so sorry. We're coming with our tail between our legs. Can you please help us? We will kiss your butt. We'll kiss your butt. What is it you want in that USMC? It's time to grow a backbone. It's time for Canada to take back its sovereignty and stop pandering to the United Nations and doing everything the United Nations wants us to do, rather than do what Canadians want our government to do. I'm done now.
If you enjoyed this video, you may want to take a look at other videos you find on this page. Don't forget, if you like it, push the subscribe button under this video, and feel free to like and share with all your friends. Follow me on Twitter by following the link on this page. If you want to interact, feel free to post a comment, but please, no obscenities. Thanks for watching. Billy Joyce signing off and reminding you that I'm here to help you weather the storm.